Please welcome our new Director of Guest Experience, Aurora Vance. The announcer's voice boomed through the Grand Plaza ballroom, and I watched 1,500 faces turn toward the stage. Toward me. Standing there in a black Valentino dress, microphone in hand, looking directly at table number 5 where my family sat frozen in their seats. My mother, Evelyn Vance, chairwoman of the Evelyn Vance Foundation and social queen of Chicago's elite, had gone completely pale. Her perfectly practiced smile cracked and fell away, replaced by an expression I had never seen before. Pure shock. My father's hand stopped midway to his wine glass, suspended in disbelief. And my sister Scarlett, who had been filming the gala for her Instagram as always, slowly lowered her phone as the reality of what was happening hit her. This was the same family who had handed me a legal document disowning me exactly 14 days ago. The same family who had recorded my humiliation at my own birthday party and laughed while doing it. The same people who had spent 31 years telling me I would never amount to anything, that my dreams were worthless, that I was an embarrassment to the Vance name. And now, here I was standing on the most important stage in Chicago's hospitality industry, being introduced as the newest executive of the most prestigious hotel group in the world. The look on their faces was everything I never knew I needed. If you are enjoying this story of how I went from being my family's punching bag to standing on top of the world they tried to keep me from, please hit that like button, subscribe to hear more stories like this, and drop a comment below telling me what you would have done in my situation. Your support means everything, and I read every single comment. Let me take you back to where this all started, because nobody wakes up one day and decides to obliterate their entire family. It is a journey, a painful one, and mine began long before that birthday party from hell. I grew up as the invisible daughter of the Vance family. My father, Richard Vance, was the CFO of Vance Industries, a manufacturing empire worth hundreds of millions. My mother, Evelyn, ran her foundation and spent her days attending charity galas and reminding everyone within earshot how exceptional our family was. Then there was Scarlett, my older sister, the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. She became a senior attorney at Sterling and Hayes by the time she was 30, and every achievement was celebrated like she had won the Nobel Prize. And then there was me, Aurora, the disappointment. From the time I was young, it was clear I did not fit the mold my parents had designed for the perfect Vance daughter. Scarlett was aggressive, cutthroat, always aiming for the top of whatever corporate ladder was in front of her. I was different. I loved people. I loved languages. By the time I graduated from college, I spoke English, French, Spanish, and Japanese fluently, and I was working on Mandarin. But my parents did not see that as a skill worth celebrating. When I told them I wanted to work in hospitality, to create experiences that made people feel seen and valued, my mother actually laughed. She said, "You want to be a waitress?" At your age, your sister was already closing million-dollar deals. That became the refrain of my life. At your age, Scarlett was. Scarlett never. Why can't you be more like your sister? Every family dinner was a performance where I was the punchline. I worked as the front desk manager at the Zenith, a 2-Michelin-star restaurant in downtown Chicago, and I was good at my job. Really good. I knew how to read people, anticipate their needs, make them feel like they were the most important person in the room. But to my family, I was just serving tables. They refused to introduce me to their business partners. My mother told me point blank that having me at events made the family look bad. Can you imagine hearing that from your own mother, that your existence is an embarrassment? The worst part was not even the words. It was the little things, the constant comparisons, the way Scarlett would send me job listings for executive assistant positions with a smiley face emoji, like she was trying to help me find my level. The way my father would sigh heavily whenever I entered a room like my presence was a burden. The way my mother would forget to include me in family photos, then post them on social media with captions about her beautiful family. I tried so hard to earn their approval. I worked 70-hour weeks. I sent them articles about hospitality trends, hoping they would see that my industry was legitimate, that what I did mattered. I showed up to every family dinner, even though I knew I would spend 2 hours being insulted. I convinced myself that if I just tried harder, did better, achieved more, they would finally see me. Finally love me. But that day never came. Instead, things got worse. I started having panic attacks. I would wake up at 3 in the morning, my heart racing, unable to breathe, convinced I was dying. My doctor put me on medication for anxiety and warned me about my cortisol levels. "You are under too much stress," she said. "You need to remove the source of this stress from your life." But how do you remove your own family? They were supposed to be the people who supported you unconditionally, who believed in you when no one else did. Instead, they were the ones tearing me down. My boyfriend at the time, a finance guy named Brandon, broke up with me because of my family. He said he could not imagine being part of a family that treated me the way mine did, and he could not understand why I kept subjecting myself to it. "You are better than this, Aurora," he said. But I did not feel better than anything. I felt worthless. Because if your own family does not think you are good enough, how can you believe you are? Then came the night that changed everything. February 28th, my 31st birthday. My mother insisted on hosting a party at the Sapphire Room, the most exclusive restaurant in Chicago. I should have known something was wrong when she actually wanted to celebrate my birthday. She had forgotten the previous 3. But I was so desperate for their acceptance that I showed up in my best dress with hope in my heart like an idiot. The restaurant was packed with Chicago's elite. Business moguls, politicians, socialites. My family was dressed to the nines, and Scarlett had her phone out recording everything as usual. She was always recording, always posting, always performing for her social media followers. My mother was smiling, but it was her cold smile, the one she used at fundraisers when she was about to ask someone for money. My father was checking his watch like he had somewhere better to be. Then my mother stood up and clinked her glass. She made a speech about family and hard truths and being 31 years old. And then my father handed me an envelope. It was thick, formal looking. I remember thinking maybe it was a check. Maybe they were finally going to invest in one of my ideas. I opened it with shaking hands, and my world stopped. It was a declaration of renouncement of inheritance rights and Vance family relations, a legal document with all their signatures at the bottom officially disowning me. The room was spinning. I could hear my mother's voice, cold and clear. "Happy birthday, dear. This is a gift from all of us. The time for wasting hours has ended." My father leaned back in his chair. "You are 31, Aurora. It is time to face reality." And Scarlett, still filming, laughed. "Finally, sis, you can live authentically with your so-called little dreams. No more being the shadow of the Vance family." The entire restaurant was watching. I could feel hundreds of eyes on me. My throat was tight, my vision was blurring, but something inside me snapped. Not broke. Snapped into place. I looked at that document, at their signatures, at the smug expressions on their faces, and I knew I was done. I stood up, my hands surprisingly steady, and I tore that document into pieces. Small pieces. Confetti pieces. And I threw them in my father's face. "You will regret this," I said. My voice was shaking, but my eyes were not. "This is the only thing I will ever accept from you." I walked out of that restaurant with my head high, even though I was crying so hard I could barely see. I sat in my car in the parking lot for 2 hours sobbing until I thought I would throw up. I had given them everything. My entire life I had bent myself into shapes trying to fit their mold, trying to be enough, trying to earn love that should have been unconditional. And their gift to me was a legal declaration that I was not worthy of being their daughter. But here is what they did not know. Here is what they never bothered to learn about me because they were too busy dismissing me. 2 weeks before that birthday disaster, something had happened at the Zenith. Something that would change my entire life. A Japanese CEO named Kato Tanaka arrived for his reservation, but there was a system error. His table was gone. Overbooked. My manager, David Sterling, was having a meltdown because this was a $50 million client and we were about to lose him. I watched Mr. Tanaka's face, saw the disappointment, the frustration, and I made a decision. I approached him, bowed deeply, and apologized in perfect Japanese. I explained the situation, took full responsibility, and offered him our private dining room with a customized menu that incorporated elements of Japanese cuisine with our Michelin star techniques. I spent the next 3 hours making sure every detail was perfect. By the end of the night, Mr. Tanaka had not only forgiven the error, he had signed a $5 million contract to host all his company's Chicago events at the Zenith. David was ecstatic. He called me a miracle worker, but there was someone else watching that night. Someone I did not know was there. Julian Thorne, CEO of Olympus Hospitality Group, one of the largest luxury hotel chains in the world, had been dining 3 tables away, and he saw everything. The next day, I got an email. "Your talent is being wasted. We need to talk about your future." It was signed, Julian Thorne. I almost deleted it thinking it was spam, but something made me look him up, and when I saw who he was, I nearly fainted. Julian Thorne was a legend in the hospitality industry. He had built Olympus from 3 hotels to a global empire of 57 5-star properties, and he wanted to talk to me. I did not respond. I was too scared, too beaten down by years of being told I was not good enough. But Julian sent another email. "Ms. Vance, I do not make offers twice. Should we discuss your value or not?" That word. Value. Did I have value? My family had spent 31 years telling me I did not. But that night, after my birthday disaster, sitting in my car with mascara running down my face and torn up legal documents in my purse, I made a choice. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and typed, "Mr. Thorne, I am ready. When can we meet?" His response came in less than 5 minutes. "Tomorrow, 10 a.m. My office. Bring your ambition." I did not sleep that night. I researched Olympus. I prepared. I gave myself pep talks in the mirror. And when I walked into that office the next morning, I was terrified but determined. Julian Thorne was nothing like I expected. He was in his 50s with silver hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see right through every defense mechanism I had built. He did not waste time on pleasantries. "I watched you with Tanaka," he said. "That was not just customer service. That was cultural intelligence, emotional awareness, and crisis management all rolled into one. You turned a disaster into a $50 million contract. How long have you been doing this?" "7 years," I said quietly. "And your family?" he asked. "I heard about the birthday incident. It is all over certain social circles." He leaned forward. "Let me be clear, Aurora. I do not care about your family name. I care about your talent. And you have something rare. You have the ability to make people feel valued in a world where everyone wants to feel special. That is worth more than any MBA. What followed was the most intense interview process of my life. Not an interview, an evaluation. Julian put me through 3 rounds of testing that made my anxiety disorder want to kill me, but I pushed through. The first round was a simulated crisis with international VIP guests. I had 10 minutes to resolve a situation involving a Saudi prince, a lost reservation, a stolen briefcase, and a medical emergency. I solved it in 8 minutes. The actors broke character to applaud me. The second round was designing a complete guest experience program for Middle Eastern royalty. I spent 4 days on a 50-page proposal that covered everything from cultural customs to dietary restrictions to color psychology in room design. Julian later told me it exceeded every expectation. The third round was face-to-face with Julian himself. He asked me one question. "If you had unlimited resources and nobody telling you that you were not good enough, what would you do?" I took a deep breath and answered from my soul. I would revolutionize the hospitality industry by making cultural intelligence the foundation. I would train every employee to see guests as individuals with unique stories, not just room numbers. I would create experiences that make people feel like they belong, because I know exactly what it feels like to be treated like you do not. Julian smiled. "Welcome to your real family, Aurora." On January 10th, I signed a contract that changed my life. Director of Guest Experience, base salary of $300,000, stock options worth $750,000, a penthouse apartment in Olympus's flagship Chicago property, and most importantly, respect. Real respect. I drafted my resignation letter to the Zenith that night. I also sent a thank you email to David Sterling, who had always believed in me when no one else did. He called me immediately, his voice choked with emotion. "They called to verify your employment, Aurora. I gave you the best reference of my career. You deserve this. You always deserved this." But here is what I did not tell anyone. I was planning something that would require perfect timing, perfect execution, and a little bit of poetic justice. Because my mother, Evelyn Vance, was the co-chair of the committee organizing the Excellence in Hospitality Industry Gala on March 15th, the biggest event in Chicago's hospitality scene. And Julian had just told me that Olympus was the platinum sponsor, and he wanted me to give the keynote address. He wanted to announce my appointment there in front of everyone who mattered in the industry, including my family. I spent 2 weeks preparing. Not just the speech, but everything. I worked 16-hour days at Olympus, proving myself exceeding expectations, making sure that when I stepped onto that stage, nobody could question whether I deserved to be there. I partnered with Mr. Tanaka on an expansion deal worth $50 million. I increased guest satisfaction scores by 15% in my first 2 weeks. I was not just good, I was extraordinary. Meanwhile, my family was having a field day. After that birthday disaster, they launched what I can only describe as a smear campaign. Group texts calling me ungrateful. Voicemails from my father explaining how he was trying to motivate me. An email from Scarlett with a link to therapy resources for people with delusions of grandeur. She even posted the video from the birthday party to our extended family WhatsApp group with the caption, "The moment Aurora finally gets what she deserves." I saved everything. Every text, every voicemail, every social media post. I did not respond to any of it. I just watched them dig their own graves deeper and deeper, convinced they had won, convinced they had finally put me in my place. The day of the gala arrived, March 15th. I spent the morning at the salon getting my hair and makeup done. I bought a black Valentino dress that cost more than my monthly rent used to be, and I wore my grandmother's pearl necklace, the one my mother always said I was not worthy of wearing. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. Not because I looked different, but because I finally looked like myself. Confident, powerful, free. The gala was at the Grand Plaza, the most prestigious venue in Chicago. 1,500 guests, every major player in the hospitality industry, politicians, celebrities. And right in the center of the ballroom at table number 5 was my family. My mother was in a gold gown already holding court with several socialites. My father was networking with business partners, and Scarlett was of course filming everything for her Instagram story. I arrived early before the doors opened to guests and stood backstage with Julian. He put his hand on my shoulder. "Ready to show them who you really are?" "I have been ready my entire life," I said. The ballroom filled. Dinner was served. I watched from backstage as my family ate and laughed and had no idea what was coming. Then came the program. Speeches from various industry leaders, awards, and then the special announcement. Julian took the stage and the room went silent. He was a commanding presence and everyone respected him. He began talking about transformation in the industry, about finding talent in unexpected places, about a woman who had turned a catastrophe into a $50 million opportunity. He talked about someone who had worked in what many considered a humble position, who had been looked down upon by those closest to her, but who had insights into hospitality that no MBA could teach. I watched the screens showing the audience. My mother's smile was frozen on her face as she tried to figure out who Julian was talking about. Scarlett was still filming, but her hands were starting to shake. My father was leaning forward, confused. And then Julian said it. "Please welcome our new director of guest experience, Aurora Vance." The spotlight hit me as I walked onto that stage. The gasps from the audience were audible, but nothing compared to the expressions on my family's faces. My mother's champagne glass fell and shattered. My father looked like he had been punched in the gut, and Scarlett's phone dropped into her dinner plate, still recording, capturing nothing but tablecloth and salmon. I looked directly at their table and smiled. Not a bitter smile, not an angry smile, just a smile that said, "You should have believed in me." Julian placed an Olympus executive badge in my hand, the symbol of my new authority, and began listing my accomplishments. Director Vance has improved guest satisfaction scores by 15% in just 2 weeks. She is the reason Tanaka Group chose Grand Plaza for their $50 million expansion contract. As he spoke, the screens showed footage of me with Mr. Tanaka deep in conversation, while in the background of the shot my family sat at their table, completely oblivious to the massive deal being closed just feet away. Then it was my turn to speak. I took the microphone, looked out at the sea of faces, and felt a calm settle over me that I had never experienced before. I talked about the real meaning of service, about seeing the true value in people regardless of their titles. And I announced the From Lobby to Leadership program, an initiative I had designed to provide training and advancement opportunities for frontline hospitality workers who were often overlooked. The entire ballroom stood and applauded. I had done it. I had proven myself on the biggest stage possible. As I walked off stage, my family was already rushing toward me. My mother got to me first, her voice shrill and desperate. "Aurora, why did not you tell me about this?" I gently removed her hand from my arm. "Tell you what? You disowned me." February 28th, 7:43 p.m. You recorded the whole thing, remember? I pulled the torn pieces of the renouncement document from my purse, now taped back together and laminated. Your signatures say everything. My father tried next, his voice stammering. "That was just a way to motivate you, sweetheart." Scarlett pushed forward, her face red with fury. "You cannot do this to family. This is cruel." I felt something cold settle in my chest. Cruel. Like giving someone a legal document, disowning them as a birthday gift, and filming their reaction. My mother's eyes filled with tears. "We are your family." I looked at her, this woman who had spent 31 years telling me I was not enough, and I felt nothing but pity. "You were. You made your decision. I simply accepted your terms." Security appeared, summoned by Julian's subtle signal. I looked at the guards and said clearly, "These people are causing a disruption. They are not on my approved contact list." My father's face went purple. "She is our daughter." I spoke loudly enough for the nearby tables to hear. "No, I am Olympus's director. You made sure I was not your daughter anymore." I turned my back on them and walked away as security escorted them out. Behind me, I could hear my mother's voice rising in protest, but I did not look back. I was done looking back. The next morning, every business publication in Chicago ran the story. Photos of my mother being escorted out by security. My father looking desperate and angry. Me standing on that stage confident and powerful. The headlines were brutal. Shameful family secrets of charity chairwoman. Elite family publicly disowns daughter, then begs for forgiveness when she becomes successful. The price of prestige. How the Vance family lost their most valuable asset. The consequences were swift and severe. The Evelyn Vance Foundation lost 40% of its annual funding within a week. Donors did not want to be associated with a woman who would disown her own daughter and then throw a tantrum when that daughter succeeded without her. My mother was forced to resign as chairwoman, a position she had held for 15 years. Scarlett's law firm transferred her to their Cleveland office, effectively killing her career trajectory in Chicago. The video she had posted of my birthday humiliation had been leaked to the media, and it made her look absolutely monstrous. Her social media accounts, which she had cultivated so carefully, became flooded with comments calling her cruel and heartless. My father was pressured into early retirement from Vance Industries. The board did not want the bad publicity. He lost most of his stock options in the process. And perhaps worst of all for them, the extended Vance family and their social circle turned their backs. Nobody RSVP'd to their annual Thanksgiving gathering. Nobody returned their calls. In Chicago's elite society, reputation is everything, and theirs was destroyed. Meanwhile, my life was transforming in ways I had never dreamed possible. Olympus's stock rose 3% on the news of my appointment and the positive guest feedback we were receiving. Forbes named me one of 40 hotel leaders under 40. I purchased a penthouse apartment with my own money, not family money, and threw a dinner party for my real family. David Sterling from the Zenith. Jean-Pierre, a manager who had become my closest friend. And Julian Thorne, the man who had seen my value when I could not see it myself. I also started the Aurora Vance Hospitality Scholarship for students from difficult backgrounds who wanted to enter the industry. I wanted to be for them what nobody had been for me. A believer, an advocate, a champion. Within 6 months, I was promoted to senior director with a salary of $400,000. I was leading a team of 40 people across 5 properties. I was speaking at industry conferences. I was living the life I had always dreamed of but never thought I deserved. My family tried everything to reconcile. They sent flowers, white orchids, which were actually my favorite, not the yellow roses that I was allergic to that they had been sending me for years. They sent emails. texts, voice messages. They even showed up at the Olympus lobby several times. I refused every attempt. I told my lawyer to inform them that I had framed the renouncement document and considered it my certificate of freedom, because that is what it was. They had given me permission to stop trying to earn their love. They had freed me from the prison of their expectations. The most beautiful part came a year later. I met Michael, a cardiac surgeon who had also been estranged from his family for choosing his own path. He understood me in ways nobody else could. He proposed to me in Paris on a rooftop overlooking the city, and I said yes without a moment's hesitation. We planned our wedding for the rooftop of the Grand Plaza, the same venue where I had reclaimed my life. On the day of the wedding, I got a letter from my mother. It was long, full of apologies and explanations and justifications. She wrote about family expectations and disappointment and how hard it was to accept that I was different from Scarlett. She wrote about regretting the birthday incident, about being overwhelmed by public backlash, about wanting to make things right. She ended by begging for an invitation to the wedding. Just to watch, she wrote, "I do not need to be part of it. I just need to see that you are happy." I read that letter 3 times, and then I wrote back. I told her that I had spent 31 years begging for scraps of her approval, and I was not going to spend another moment doing so. I told her that happiness was not something she needed to witness or validate. I told her that I had built a life I was proud of with people who loved me for who I actually was, not who they wanted me to be. And I told her that the door she had closed on February 28th would remain closed. I did not need her to see me happy. I only needed to be happy. I did not send an invitation. My wedding day was perfect. Michael and I stood on that rooftop with 50 of our closest friends and colleagues. David Sterling walked me down the aisle. Julian Thorne made a toast about finding family in unexpected places. And when Michael and I exchanged vows, promising to always see each other's value, to always be each other's champion, I cried tears of joy instead of tears of pain for the first time in years. That night after the reception, Michael and I stood on the balcony of our honeymoon suite looking out over Chicago's glittering skyline. He pulled me close and asked if I had any regrets. I thought about my family, about the years of pain, about the birthday that had changed everything, and I realized something profound. I did not hate them. I did not even feel angry anymore. I just felt free. Free from the weight of trying to be someone I was not. Free from the desperate need for their approval. Free from the belief that their opinion of me defined my worth. They had taught me a valuable lesson, just not the one they intended. They taught me that sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones who free you to become who you were always meant to be. Success was not about proving them wrong. Success was about proving myself right. Right about my value, right about my choices, right about my path. And I had done that, not in spite of them, but because of them. They had pushed me so low that the only direction left was up, and I had climbed higher than any of them could have imagined. Do I wish things had been different? Sometimes. I wish I had grown up in a family that celebrated me instead of diminished me. I wish I had not spent years thinking I was worthless. I wish I had not needed a dramatic public confrontation to finally stand up for myself. But I cannot change the past. I can only shape the future. And my future is bright, built on a foundation of real relationships, genuine respect, and self-worth that nobody can take away. The renouncement document that was supposed to be my humiliation became the catalyst for my liberation. The family that rejected me pushed me toward the family I chose. The voices that told me I was not enough became the fuel that powered me to achieve more than I ever thought possible. And the girl who once cried in her car holding torn pieces of a legal document that said she was not worthy of being loved became a woman who knew her worth without needing anyone else's validation. That is what I want everyone who hears this story to understand. You do not need permission from the people who hurt you to succeed. You do not need validation from those who diminished you to know your value. Sometimes the greatest gift toxic people can give you is walking away and making room for people who will actually appreciate you. My family thought they were discarding trash when they disowned me. Instead, they were releasing a diamond they were too blind to recognize. So here I am, Aurora Vance. Not the Vance family's disappointment. Not the daughter who was not good enough. Just Aurora. Director. Wife. Mentor. scholarship founder, and most importantly, free. The success I built did not come from their money or their name or their connections. It came from my talent, my determination, and the people who saw my potential when I could barely see it myself. And that is a success nobody can take away, no matter how hard they try to reclaim it. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have forgiven your family, or would you have chosen yourself? Drop a comment below and let me know. And if this story resonated with you, if you have ever felt undervalued or dismissed by the people who were supposed to love you unconditionally, hit that like button and subscribe. You are not alone. Your value does not depend on other people's ability to see it, and sometimes the best revenge is not revenge at all. It is simply living so well that they realize exactly what they lost. Thank you for listening to my story.